Hello everyone, thanks for checking in to find out what else I saw in June that I didn't already tell you about. First up is a movie I've wanted to see for a long time, 1958's Ice Cold in Alex, a British World War II film in which two army officers are ordered to bring two nurses across the North African desert from Tobruk to Alexandria, but the area between is full of danger. They must be wary of bombing planes, minefields, and caravans of Germans, not to mention the natural hazards of the environment and mechanical issues with their heavy old Red Cross truck. I don't remember anymore how I first heard about this one. I did have a couple people recommend it to me or request a review of it, but I already had it on my watch list, and not just my regular watch list, which doesn't even exist. I more have 50 fragmented watch lists sprinkled all over the place, but a special list of movies that I can't find anywhere, or that I can find but they're not in the right format. I have wanted to see it and been frustrated that it was so hard to get for a long time. It's one of those old British war movies that's in dire need of a new release, a new physical release. But suddenly I discovered that it was streaming on IMDb TV, which is watchable through Amazon Prime, and it had commercials, which I wasn't crazy about, but I said, you know what? I will take 20 plus minutes of commercials sprinkled throughout if I can finally see this movie after all this time. And it definitely met my high expectations. It boasts fine performances from the four leads, John Mills, Sylvia Sims, Harry Andrews, and Anthony Quayle as a South African captain whose bravado causes instant friction when he joins the group. Sylvia Sims has a good role, and it's unusual to see a woman play an active part in a film like this, and I was so relieved it didn't just evolve into the three men fighting for her attention and squabbling over who gets the girl, because I hate it when that's a major plot of a war movie. There's little actual combat here. There is wartime tension, yes, plenty of it, but it's just as much about survival and the group working past their differences to ensure they all make it to their destination. A war adventure about a small, disparate group of people having to work together to survive? Sign me up. The photography is beautiful. Crisp, clear picture, sharp editing, appealing contrasts of light and dark, and in particular the unique framing of certain scenes stood out to me. It's a great character-driven war story set in the North African desert, which I think of as the less familiar theater, which called two other excellent films to mind, Sea of Sand, British, also 1958, and Sahara, American, 1943. Romance does come into it a bit, but not in a way that annoyed me, and there's a dominant alcoholism conflict with Mills's troubled lead character, and it offers numerous memorable sequences, including a striking ending. In early June, Amazon ended their contract with Epix, so there were a bunch of movies, a lot of them old, that stopped being included for free with Prime. I knew of a couple that I wouldn't be able to rent through my library network, so I squeezed them in before I lost the opportunity. Granted, there have been plenty of times when I saw that something was about to expire from Prime and I rushed to watch it, and then it showed up again a month or two later, which made me feel kind of annoyed because if I'd known, I would have watched something else and just kept saving that. But you never know when that's gonna happen. One of these was 1962's Journey to the Seventh Planet, a sci-fi flick where a five-man crew travels to Uranus, that's not how we said it in school, to check out an increased radiation level reading. En route, they're caught in a time-lapse during which an alien being reads their minds, enabling it to know just how to attack them when they arrive, using specially tailored memories, phobias, and desires. This international effort was produced and directed by Sidney Pink from a story of his own concoction developed into a screenplay by Ib Melchior. I learned about the film's troubled production when I read Robert Skotak's biography of Melchior a few months ago. The premise is so-so. I think it holds some promise, but the execution is pretty rough. John Agar and Greta Thyssen get top billing. Theirs are the only names featured in the main titles, in fact, but I would call them supporting actors behind the commander, Carl Ottoson, and his lady friend Ingrid, played by Anne Smyrner. The alien being entices the men with what I viewed as a comical parade of beautiful women and scares them with terrifying creatures. I had trouble getting into this one, and I can't say a bigger budget would have improved it because I just didn't find the story or the characters engaging. The film has a slow, stagnant feel, plus it comes across as pretty silly. It does have some creative set designs, which are small but interesting to look at, and the animated end titles are fun, but I have a hard time recommending it. The other film, which is related, but I liked much better, was 1965's Planet of the Vampires. However, I decided to give that one a separate video, so you can look for that review next weekend. Movie number 3, then, is 1989's The Abyss, which also expired from Prime on June 9th, but now it's shown up again, so I don't know what that's all about. Whatever. I was pretty sure I'd seen most of this one several years ago, and now I'm sure I'd seen all but the very beginning. A bizarre incident causes the sinking of a nuclear submarine. A team of oil rig divers is conscripted into assisting a U.S. Navy SEAL team on a rescue and reconnaissance mission. But from the start, conflict simmers between the oil rig leader and its designer, an estranged husband and wife, and between the riggers and the SEALs, who are lofty and secretive and whose leader isn't quite so stable as he should be. When things go awry, they find themselves stuck in the ocean together at the edge of an abyss where some kind of non-terrestrial intelligent being resides in the depths. Tension abounds in this film, written and directed by James Cameron, and starring Ed Harris, Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, and Michael Biehn, who I saw last month in Cameron's Aliens, and it took me way too long to recognize him here. The Abyss touches on a few genres, sci-fi, horror, adventure, thriller, and there's compelling personal drama between the main couple that leads to an emotional climactic moment. And I've always loved the attention to detail and continuity, where Harris angrily throws his wedding ring in the toilet and then has second thoughts and has to fish it out, but because of the blue chemical in the water, his hand is stained throughout the rest of the film. There are some beautiful visuals in this movie that still impress and wow. The design and colors of the stuff you see if you watch the movie are especially amazing, and these visuals are accompanied by Alan Silvestri's uplifting, borderline celestial score. It's a solid story about people learning the importance of honesty, but it's also a strong first contact episode with a stunning acid trip sequence for a character in a spacesuit and helmet that basically calls 2001: A Space Odyssey to mind, except I like this movie much better. Movie number 4 is 1958's I Accuse, which I'll call a good but challenging film directed by and starring Jose Ferrer. It's a true story based on the 1894 case of Alfred Dreyfus, a Jewish captain in the French army and new member of the general's staff thanks to a recent change in rules. The army learns a spy is selling secrets to Imperial Germany and quickly pins blame on Dreyfus, but we're sure he's innocent because we know the identity of the real spy, played by Anton Walbrook at his smarmiest, from the very beginning. This case was a notorious one both times it came to court, the original trial and the retrial pushed for by Georges Clemenceau and Émile Zola, the title of whose essay, J'accuse, provides the name of the film. It's got a strong supporting cast that includes Leo Genn, Herbert Lom, those two right there should sell the movie, George Coulouris, Harry Andrews, David Farrar, and Vivica Lindfors as Dreyfus's wife, among others. The opening title card describes this as a brave moment for France, but, as the film tells it, this story does not make France look good, neither the corrupt army nor the reactionary and prejudiced crowd who all too eagerly shriek for Dreyfus's execution. The court-martial is a travesty of military justice, the press can be bought, high-ranking officials are more interested in covering their own bums in the name of protecting the security of France, and at the root of the whole thing is anti-Semitism. Overall, it's one of the most frustrating, infuriating instances of injustice to occur in modern European history. Good movie, though, and it's got a favorable outcome, and it's an important and timely story to be aware of. The Dreyfus case was actually just referred to in a book I'm reading, so I was able to say, hey, I know all about that. Movie number 5 is 1962's Merrill's Marauders, a World War II film that stars Jeff Chandler as the brigadier general who kept pushing his 3,000 troops past their breaking point in an effort to defeat the Japanese in Burma, the ultimate goal being to keep Japan from making contact with German forces. It's a well-made and effective Technicolor film directed by Sam Fuller that focuses as much on the physical and emotional toll combat takes on the soldier as on the combat itself. These are men whose leave is well past due, and Merrill knows it, but he's got no choice but to urge them onward. One behind-the-scenes element that makes this film stand out, General Merrill was covering up a serious health condition through this campaign, and in real life, actor Jeff Chandler injured his back while playing baseball with some Special Forces soldiers who were involved with the film as extras. Injections helped him get through filming and conceal pain, but following production he had surgery. That went badly, and he died 2 months after the incident. Merrill's Marauders was his last film. And it's a good film with some surprisingly touching scenes, as well as a memorable sequence where the camera pans the scene of a battle where all these concrete, coffin-shaped blocks are clustered together as the lieutenant takes in the carnage. Bodies of the fallen are strewn everywhere, but it was a victory. Movie number 6 is a Japanese film from 1968, Kyukitsuki Goke Midoro, or Goke, Body Snatcher from Hell. A plane full of passengers is flying through a bizarre red sky when they get a warning that a bomb may be on board, and then the plane is hijacked by an assassin, and then a UFO appears and the encounter sends the plane crashing in a barren, rocky spot. The hijacker is taken over by alien goo that seeps into his forehead, turning him into a vampire, and he starts going after the others. Things get weird, but they're weird to begin with, so it's not like the movie suddenly takes a strange turn. This didn't turn out to be the movie that I'd thought it would be, based on the premise, which I had liked. The ingredients were there, but the final dish wasn't what I was looking for. My mom and I both found the characters repellent, with the exception of the co-pilot and the stewardess, and I'd say the novelist half the time, and that was compounded by some bizarre performances. It's definitely full of surprises, and the twist at the end is interesting. It just didn't do it for me. But if you're really into disturbing, surreal imagery, this might be more your thing, and I have a strong feeling this movie has a cult following. Movie number 7 is 1953's Shane, another classic western to cross off my list. Alan Ladd plays the title role, a man who rides up to a homesteader's settlement and gets himself involved in a dispute between the community of farmers and the rancher who wants them off the land he claims is his. I did already know the famous ending. I know the endings of a lot of movies that I haven't seen, unfortunately. It comes with the territory, but it didn't ruin my enjoyment of the film. It's got kind of a slow, gradual build, considering you can guess from the first 10 minutes how things are going to go down, but it takes its time to develop characters and relationships, however undefined those relationships may be. It's told primarily from the perspective of Joey, the settler's young son, who idolizes this mysterious but kind stranger almost from the moment he appears. I can't say I blame him. Alan Ladd's possibly at his most appealing here. Ladd had a notably small build, though, hey, he was taller than me, and that actually works in his favor in this role, his slightness contributing to the character's unassuming posture and disguise. Shane is a good example of quiet masculinity. No swagger, no temper, no raised voice, no showing off, but capable, strong, and courageous just the same. He's not a big talker, which opens things up for some good eye acting, not just from Ladd, but from the rest of the cast, which includes Van Heflin and Jean Arthur, with Jack Palance as a sinister but soft-spoken hired gun, plus Edgar Buchanan, Ben Johnson, Elisha Cook Jr., and as young Joey, Brandon DeWild, who got himself a Best Supporting Actor nomination. It's a sweeping western that depicts the farmer versus cowman conflict more grimly than Oklahoma does, while also exploring courage versus self-preservation, hero worship, and coming of age. My only criticism is that there are too many crossfade transitions. The film was directed by George Stevens, with music composed by Victor Young and costumes by Edith Head. Movie number 8 is a rewatch. My family wanted to watch a movie together, but we hadn't pre-planned or pre-selected anything. Turner Classic Movies had just aired a bunch of Hitchcock films and added them to the app, so after some back and forth, we ended up settling on Rear Window. All of us have seen it many times, of course, but a great movie bears revisiting, and it's a favorite. According to my list, the last time I saw it in its entirety was 2017, which must have been when I reviewed it. Since then, the neighbors I pretended to spy on in that video have moved out, a young couple has flipped the house, and now another family is living next door, which makes 2017 seem like an awfully long time ago. Rear Window retains its title as my favorite color Hitchcock film, as if there was any question. Jimmy Stewart is splendid, Grace Kelly is effervescent, and Thelma Ritter is delightful. The mix of personalities and dramas unfolding in the courtyard never gets old. There's always some new detail or nonverbal response to pick up on, and the dry, macabre tone is as witty and entertaining as ever. And movie number 9 is actually a 2-part miniseries that my mom saw back when it originally aired on TV, 1980's Condominium. The recent tragedy in Florida brought this back to the forefront of her mind, and since it had been such a long time, she wanted to see it again. I was able to find it on YouTube, and I queued it up for her. In the spirit of hotel or airport, it depicts the conflicts between inhabitants of a new high-rise condominium on one of the Florida Keys, but a discovery of structural weakness causes alarm as a massive hurricane approaches. My expectations for this were quite low, but though the picture quality is abysmal, and it does have some absurd moments, it wasn't so bad. I wouldn't really call it a disaster film. There's much more time spent on personal and corporate drama. It's more a morality tale where the disaster at the end comes as the final judgment. We get a lion's share of unsavory or scummy characters, but some likable ones as well, and a couple I thought would be distasteful who turned out not to be. The cast includes Barbara Eden, Dan Haggerty, Steve Forrest, Ralph Bellamy, Richard Anderson, Larry Bishop, Linda Crystal, Pamela Hensley, and Stuart Whitman, among others. There are some unexpected twists, and while there's a useless flashback element that teases the hurricane from the beginning and then makes you wait for it for a ridiculously long time, when push comes to shove, the show delivers as best it can, and by that point, you've come to care about the characters a lot more than you thought you would when the whole thing started. And that's what else I saw in June. And here we are, we're already more than a week into July, and I can tell you, it's looking good so far. I hope you enjoyed this collection of reviews. If you have any thoughts on any of the films that I mentioned, feel free to share them in the comments below, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.